and it's hard to separate heritage sometimes from what I consider genocide.
I expected to leave Edmonton's Heritage Festival thinking about culture, but instead I left thinking about evidence. Walking through the pavilions, I saw countries doing what you would expect, sharing their food, music, dances, crafts, and tourism.
In traditional Lebanese culture, the
The
group
Scandinavian pavilion even used cardboard cutouts of football star Erling Haaland to attract visitors. But what struck me that one pavilion that seems to be on a different page. The Palestinian pavilion wasn't only sharing its culture, it was also displaying historical documents, coins, and photographs, while volunteers spent time proving that their country exists.
Being Palestine before 1948, you look at documents from British Mandate period, 1934, and it says Government of Palestine, Department of Migration. So not only did Palestine exist, if you wanted to go there, you had to go through the Government of Palestine. Another interesting thing is the British Mandate period coins. If you look, one thing you notice, all the coins say Palestine, not Britain, even though the Brits were in charge of Palestine.
The Palestinian pound was the official currency of Palestine from 1927 until 1948. It featured Arabic for the Palestinian population, English for the British authorities, and Hebrew for the Jewish minority.
A lot of people were sold a lie that this was just an empty space and other people came and flourished. But the truth of the matter is in the pictures. You have railways, right, in Palestine. You have airports in Palestine. This airport, Lud, is actually the oldest airport in the Middle East, one of the officers was told. In the Middle East, right? So it's older than the country.
I felt less like I was walking through a cultural festival and more like I had stepped into a courtroom where someone was carefully laying out evidence.
Honestly, a lot of people are just, admittedly so, they say, I just didn't realize. I didn't know there was a theater in the West, in Ramallah. I didn't know there was a football team. I didn't know you guys had your own stamps with us. Most people are shocked. Another thing, which you know Riham very well, the tatriz, the Palestinian embroidery, it's so ingrained in the culture that we have things like this where if you're from Jerusalem or the West Bank or Nablus, Ramallah, you'll have your own type of hatch. The embroidery represents where you're from. So what they do then, they take that and they put it on a dress like that. And then you go to a wedding and you see 10 women walk in with what looks like a gang symbol, but they're all wearing the same thing. And you think, oh no, that's the Jerusalem crew. Or those are the ladies from Jenin. See, the embroidery history, because it's so old.
Looking at all this, I found myself wondering what must it feel like to come to a festival to celebrate your culture, but find yourself having to explain war and the loss of your homeland instead.
And it's very hard for us to show these things while we're being erased today in real time. So although it's Heritage Days, I feel like it wouldn't be true. I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't say that yes, there are Gazans suffering around the world, and it's hard to separate heritage sometimes from what I consider genocide.
And in the end, the Palestinian Pavilion was recognized with the festival's Best Overall Pavilion Award. It also earned first place for dessert and second place for entertainment.